3 weeks going
Wait,
on
are
a
we
month.
starting?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna start it and say that I haven't done a video in 2 weeks because I've been fucking lazy.
Now that that's out the way.
That's cute. And I'm still gonna drink it. I don't give a fuck.
Coming year.
Oh, hold on. So, what role are you playing in this?
What do you mean? Go ahead and introduce yourself. Start.
They should already know who the fuck I am. Going on, everyone? Welcome back. I haven't done a video in 2 weeks because clearly I've just been fucking lazy and I just haven't really wanted to get in front of a camera, but we're here and we're back.
You got it.
And so now I just want to talk to you guys about what I've been up to the last 2 weeks, how everything is going, and then eventually hopefully getting into like a documentary type of thing. Yeah, documentary. Thank you. Type of thing to where like I'm like having you guys with me throughout my whole entire like prep journey. But it's just like right now I'm like, the fuck you guys want to see? You know what I'm saying?
But I think this is what matters because
we're
it's like starting from absolutely the seed being planted, and right now they're just watching the soil where they're gonna watch the seed grow during this process.
All right, he has a valid point. All right, but I'll work on that. But anyway, I just want to talk to you guys about what have I been up to, how's my diet looking, how's training, and all that good stuff. So if you guys watched my last video, I talked about how I'm in the primer phase. So basically like the pre-prep before the prep. So I'm just trying to set myself up so I have a very successful prep and doing everything that I can do leading into prep and hopefully allowing me to have a smooth prep in regards to how progress goes. So recently what we've been doing is we've been working on more insulin sensitivity. And within doing so, we've actually been raising up calories along the way as well. Now, it's not like your typical reverse that you hear about, like, oh, get carbs up as high as you can. Actually, my carbs have been on the lower side of things, and what's actually been higher has been my fat. So my current macros are 150 protein, 150 carb, 90 fat, and that's on my training days. And then my non-training days are 150 protein, 110 carb, 90 fat. So it's not always going to stay like this. Like my macros aren't always going to be like this. It's just right now in this little phase that I'm in, I'm trying to work on insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
So Gillis was the one who actually presented this to me like, hey, let's just go ahead and let's try to get your calories up as high as we can, but then also start off working on insulin sensitivity so you have a better carbohydrate uptake. And that's exactly what we've been doing. So I've been following these macros, well, not these ones specifically, but I've been following this type of protocol for the last 3-4 weeks. And over the course of time, I started at 17 what was it, 1720 calories.
Yep.
And over the course of the last 3 weeks, I was able to bump my calories up to 1960. And during this time, I've noticed, like with my weight's actually been going down. So a very unique thing though in regards to weight, because I started off at like 163, and then the lowest that I hit was like 158.9. But one of the weirdest things about me, I don't know why I'm like this. Well, actually, we do know why I'm like this. Like,
we have a theory about it.
We have a theory. And when I wake up first thing in the morning, I'm typically a little bit more heavier. Midday, though, I will actually feel my body drop weight, and I will hit my weight PRs midday. And the reason why this is because, well, our theory is behind this is because upon waking in the morning, cortisol levels are very high. But then as the day goes on, your cortisol starts coming down. So what we think is that could potentially be the reason why this is. The same thing with my blood glucose level. So upon waking, since cortisol is higher, I take my blood glucose. It's a little bit on the higher end, but then it drops off because cortisol levels. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's our theory, because a couple of things that I've actually taken note is food composition hasn't really changed in terms as the types of foods that Taryn's been eating at night to affect the morning scale.
I haven't been having large boluses of food at night either, because I know people are like, oh, if you're eating a large meal at night, of course that affects weight, but with the macros that I'm on, it's more so like higher fat at night, not so there's not that spike in insulin.
Yeah. So, I mean, not really regarding the spike of insulin or the insulin in the morning so much, but more so what I'm really kind of referring to is the weight in itself. Is we've kept food composition relatively around the same timing of the meal at night. Doesn't actually vary a whole lot in order for the scale to be higher in the morning. So one of the things we have noticed is that the trends that we actually see is that around midday we end up doing another weigh, and then for whatever the reason is, there's always a shift in the weight going down after she's eaten approximately 2 to 3 meals, and it's always between noon to maybe 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the observations that we've been taking note, just because it would be one thing if it was an outlier day, it just happened to fall that way. But over the course of probably about a year, maybe even a little longer.
Now, I would say this year, more specifically.
At least we have at least 12 months of data that this has been occurring.
And it's just, I feel like I've noticed this past year specifically more so than ever.
Sure.
Now, maybe it's just I'm more so in tune with my body now than before in the past. So, like, the reason why I say that is because midday, I'll just be like, oh, shit, I'm feeling kind of leaner. And then sure shit, I hop on the scale, I'm down a pound or 2.
Yeah, I mean, after having probably 60% of your total water in for the day, as well as
food.
Yeah, as well as maybe only having another meal or 2 meals left for the remaining. So, I mean, that's a huge variable that you would think that because all of those things are actually in place, even if she were to drop weight, the weight would actually be at least balance itself out for her to be the same. But that's not happening. We're seeing not even just a half a pound. We're seeing like as high as 2 to 2.5 pounds of dropped weight, with all of those other variables really not being the cause.
Mm-hmm. And then my inches, like throughout the course of the last few weeks, my inches have steadily been coming down.
Yeah.
So food's been going up, and then inches and weight actually have steadily been coming down.
Yeah, and I mean, I always kind of, this phase in the actual diet with working on more insulin sensitive to kind of prime her for going into the 2020 season is primarily there's 2 things that I'm looking at. And one thing that's the bigger thing is obviously making sure that we're not regressing and putting on body fat by looking at pictures, right?
We've been taking progress pictures too, each week. I don't know if I want to show those shits.
No, but I mean, again, so for those
but
that are out there,
I want to be open, but I'm just like...
we're not seeing any regression. We're seeing some slight improvements in terms of the body recomping occurring, but I'm not really focused on the weight because we do know that if she's going, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're approximately 180 to 190 grams of carbohydrates before we actually started this.
Well, before we started any of this, I don't really know where my carbs or fats were.
But they were definitely higher than where they are.
I think they were very, well, it varied from day to day. Because, I mean, some days I'm like, I want to eat more fruits and vegetables. Other days I'm like, shit, I want to eat more sugar and shit, you know? But the only thing that was constant was my protein intake. Yeah. That was it.
And where I'm getting with that is that your weight loss is probably occurring because you're utilizing glycogen more because you don't have the availability of it coming in as much as you did previously.
And then, like today, too, like when I woke up, when I did progress pictures and then obviously took my weight, like collected all my data, like I felt that... I just feel that my glycogen stores are just slowly going down, even though I know that I am getting in some carbs. Like, I can just feel...
So do you feel tired, fatigue? Is that why?
No, I guess just, like, how I physically feel. Because, like, you know when you eat a lot of carbs, like, you feel more puffier or you feel, like, denser, if... you know what I'm saying?
Different, but yeah, I guess.
But, like, when I eat more carbs, like, I feel more puffier. I would say more puffier would be the word that I'm looking for. But now that we've kind of limited my carb intake, increased fat... I feel like I kind of dropped that. Like I dropped the water. I dropped that puffiness. Yeah. And I just, I don't know. I feel different.
From my observations, from the pictures that I see, that you're holding a slight harder look. And again, I think it's because the carbohydrate availability isn't as there. Right. So that makes sense why you're not feeling as puffy as well. Yeah.
Now, an interesting thing is too, last week with my progress pictures, I was on my menstrual cycle. So an observation that we made actually this morning was I actually look harder when I'm on my cycle versus today. At least I thought I did. Yeah. I thought I looked a lot harder last week. Especially in like the back and like around the delts than what I did today. And the only variable that changed was me being on my menstrual. And when you are on your menstrual cycle, ladies, you're more insulin sensitive. So maybe I was utilizing those carbohydrates a lot better than what I am now.
So one of the good things, and I'm glad you mentioned that, is that we're using to kind of as a tool for measure is using a glucometer to check fasting blood sugar levels in the morning. Now we do know that there are some different types of effects that can actually alter that, and because we know that her weight is doing these specific trends, that what we plan to do is that we're going to do a fasting blood sugar level in the morning, but also approximately around midday after she's had at least about 4 hours since her previous meal, and do another blood sugar level just to check and see if that is continued elevated, remaining elevated. But one thing, the reason I wanted to bring this up is that what you said, if you're actually during your luteal phase,
when I'm on my menstrual? No, follicular.
Okay, so is that when you feel like you're more insulin sensitive, or you're
that is when you're more insulin sensitive.
Okay, so that makes sense to also use for us to annotate this in regard for using a glucometer during that week. Because if we're noticing trends where her fasted blood sugar levels are dramatically lower, and maybe she actually drops weight during that time, it's also a good observation for us to kind of make a note in terms of are you in fact more insulin sensitive, by utilizing that to see that as well.
This is true. I mean, speaking of my fasting blood glucose, so my levels have kind of been like a little bit all over the place. So some mornings I'll wake up, I'm like 96. Another morning I woke up, I'm 76. But one thing that I did notice is on the day where I woke up, where I had a lower fasting blood glucose level of 76, is that I didn't have a lot of like artificial sweeteners in like that day. Now, every morning I have coffee. Every morning I put equal in my coffee, which is a artificial sweetener. But that day, I think that was really the only time that I consumed anything
Now, during
that
that
had
time,
artificial sweetener in it.
when you hit 76 on the fasting, were you on your cycle that week?
I don't. I think I may have been leading into my cycle. I don't think I was necessarily on my cycle at that time. But what I was saying is, I think that the artificial sweetener definitely plays into fasting blood glucose. Like, not saying that I'm like against artificial sweetener. Like, I'm fucking as artificial as they come when it comes to artificial sweetener.
Do you typically do the glucometer before you even consume the coffee with the
Yeah, right? I do it completely fasted. But what I'm saying is the night before, I didn't have any form of like an artificial sweetener.
Okay.
So maybe that's why I woke up, blood glucose levels was lower. Now, the last couple of nights, I've been having like the whipped cream, like the heavy whipped cream. Like, I'll put it in my coffee, or like I had some protein hot cocoa I made last night. I woke up, my levels were higher. So that's why I'm saying that. So artificial sweeteners, or like if you consume like sugar-free things, that definitely can spike up your blood glucose. Yeah. So kind of keep that in mind if you're interested in insulin sensitivity, blood glucose levels.
Yeah, that's a good
observation note there. Let's talk about training really quick.
Okay.
So as far as training goes, people may be wondering, well, how's your training going, like being on like these macros? Honestly, I feel great. Like, I don't have any issues at all. I still get a good pump. So even though like carbs aren't like super high, I'm still getting a good pump in the gym. I actually personally think in the gym, I look a lot fuller on the fats than more so carbs.
Now keep in mind, we are using MCT oil as one of her primary sources of fat this time around, just because we're a little lower in carbohydrate at this moment at least.
So tell them the benefit of MCT oil, like why you wanted me to have that specifically at this point.
Well, just in our case, with focusing on insulin sensitivity as the target goal, is that MCT, medium chain triglycerides, tends to bypass the Krebs cycle, which will then actually be readily available for utilization for energy, similar to how the metabolism of carbohydrate.
And it basically can bypass any of the barriers that goes around the mitochondria, and it goes directly into the mitochondria of the cell.
The Krebs cycle, yes.
Okay. But so, you got it from two perspectives. But anyway, so I've been utilizing MCT. I mean, not like every day, like you may want me to, but I have been utilizing it. So another observation that I made, which is kind of going through this insulin sensitivity thing, is that in the morning when I have like a higher fat meal versus like a higher carb meal, I'm more mentally alert. So I think that's like one of the good benefits of consuming lower carbs, higher fats.
Yeah, you have a little bit better clarity.
Absolutely. And I just feel good. Like when I first started this, I was just like, oh, fuck. But I love carbs. But since my fats are so high, I'm very satiated, and it doesn't really make me miss carbs. You know, because I used to be like pro-carber. Like, oh my God, I love carbs. I got to have high carbs. But in my 2017 prep, the closer we were getting to my show, as calories were coming down, I remember saying to Gillis, hey, why don't we just go ahead, like if we're going to have to drop calories, let's just play around with this and let's pull calories from carbs and put them into fat, because obviously the calorie sources are not coming from a glucose, but a fat. And I did perfect on that. Actually, I think that's when I made some good progress, is when we made that transition towards the end of my prep.
Yeah.
And like at night, I was eating like 7-8 whole eggs at night, and that was like
most of your fat was coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, I'm a true believer in like if you're eating like whatever your calories are, if you redistribute them but keep the calories the same, you can see a different outcome with that, especially if fats are higher and carbs are lower. So maybe that's something, like if you guys are interested in, maybe that's a video we can do kind of talking about that, like on another
Yeah,
day
another
or whatever.
video. Yeah, I mean that'd be good for anyone that's watching that if they're interested. Definitely leave us comments. Let us know. Your feedback is definitely valued. So anything that we feel like could be informative or value to you, definitely let us know because that'd be something we can always elaborate more on.
Yeah. So I mean, right now overall, I feel really good. I don't really miss the carbs. I mean, I love carbs. I think I'm always going to be a carb lover. I love sweets. But I think at this point with where my calories are at, like I'm just very satiated where I'm not like, I don't have any cravings. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
And the carbs that I do consume are starchier carbs, which are around my workouts.
Yep.
That's it. Everything else throughout the day is mostly like fruits, vegetable base. I have like those Joseph like lower carb pitas, like it's like 9 grams of carbs.
Yeah, maybe
I'll
like
consume that.
seeds.
Yes, maybe flaxseed anyway, so I'll consume that. So the goal. So what is the goal so far? Like, well, not so far, but what is the goal? I guess leading up to prep, because I know you're telling me off camera that I'm not going to be staying with this method that we're doing, that we're actually going to be working on bringing carbs up as well the closer we get to my prep.
Sure. So I want you to be as insulin sensitivity as possible within those healthy ranges. Try my focus to really get you around 70 to 75 on that glucometer pretty consistently.
Yeah.
So I want to see some consistent numbers there, and when it is a high number, I want to know why. So the more data we gather, the more things we'll be able to kind of know what may be the cause of it. If we know the cause, we can also work on the correction.
Correct.
Exactly. So being more insulin sensitive allows you to have a higher uptake of carbohydrate going into prep.
Yeah.
And then thus in hopes that as we push along in prep, we can actually keep you with higher calories for a long period of time and not have to overly get too drastic with cutting calories.
And that's the goal, because whenever I am prepping towards the end of my prep, like I have to go low.
Yeah.
I'm just that type of person. Like I'm not gifted in the sense of I can keep calories up and still be dropping body fat. Like even though right now we're working on trying to get my calories as high as we possibly can, and you projected to try to get my calories up to about like 2300.
Yeah, I think that's a good place for you because, from 2017 prep, I believe we started off at right 1800 where we are at now.
Yeah.
And so I want to push that to, for one, you're going to be much better recovered at that point. Two, you've never had your fats this high. That way when we go into prep, I do not plan to take away all of those amounts of fats. We'll kind of put you in a deficit, but you're going to be also starting on a very higher amount of fats than what you previously have in the past too.
Well, not just that. This is also the first time that I've worked on building calories up prior to a prep. And that sounds so bad because like I coach people and I'm like, you need to have your calories up before we roll into a prep or I ain't fucking with you. But here I am.
But you have to understand that your calories are in a healthy range.
Well, no, they are
be better,
right?
Versus when we're talking to clients that are coming to us with 1,200 calories or 1,000 calories and telling us they want to be in prep, and they got 30, 40 pounds to lose.
Well, exactly. But I guess it's just one of these things. Like at the end of the day, I know what my capabilities are. I know me. So I guess it's different. But this is the first time that I'm working on bringing calories up, trying to hold a good body composition. And so far, we've been seeing a good body recomp happening here. And just go from there. Yeah. So after this phase, I mean, when do you think we'll start bringing carbs in? Like bringing carbs in?
I mean, probably. If I had to guess, it's hard to say. So
I've been.
That's going to be slowly, but we're going to auto-regulate that based off of the feedback that we're seeing from the data. To be honest with you,
because I have slowly been raising carbs up. So as I increase my calories, so obviously the main focal point is getting fats up there. But I'm also bringing carbs up slowly too.
Yeah, but one thing that you have to keep in mind is that we're bringing it up slowly But if we do not see that glucometer drop below that, then we have to keep carbs where they are until we know that we're seeing a significant improvement in blood sugar levels and also for increases in insulin sensitivity. Because if we continue to see 80s and 90 numbers as we increase carbs, we're not getting anywhere.
Right.
So that's also a factor that we are also going to play into as well. So if we're not seeing that 7-day average of the glucometer go down, then your determining factor in terms of increasing carbohydrates will not occur for the following week.
There you have it.
So
what would be, we'll end it at this, what is good ranges for people to be insulin sensitive? Like, how do you know, what are the ranges for insulin sensitivity?
I think around at 70, 75.
Now this all varies for everybody though,
well, it does, yeah. Genetics play a large role with that, but you can't tell me that if you're in the 80s, almost 90s, that you should be focusing on trying to improve that to bring that number down.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, that's it. So until next time, this was Project Me. Now we do have some other videos we're going to be dropping that is going to be outside of Project Me, which I think is going to be very informative. So you guys definitely be on the lookout for that, because we're going to be covering some big topics that I think people are interested in, but they just don't know. They just don't know much about it.
Sure.
So stay tuned for that, guys. And like always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, like me, subscribe to me, follow me, be me.
Don't be her. Be you.
Be you. Don't be me. Until next time.